You've got ideas, you've got ambition, you've got no time, or so you think. I'm Marissa Lonick, and I help busy moms with big dreams and no time. Join me each week as I dive into time management strategies, goal setting and achieving framework, and inspiring guests who are juggling mom life, work life, fill in the blank life. Dreams don't work unless you do, and just because you're a mom doesn't mean you can't still make it happen, whatever it means to you. Welcome to the Mama Work It podcast. Hello, mamas, and welcome back to another episode of the Mama Work It podcast. This week, as I record episode 60 and the final episode of season 2, I wanted to give you a little taste of what I've been working on behind the scenes here at Mama Work It. And that, my friends, is my next book, Biz MOMagement, the working mom's guide to go from employee to entrepreneur. This book has been so near and dear to my heart this past year because if you know or don't know, I am a former corporate girl. I spent nearly 15 years in the corporate world doing things like leading training and development initiatives, heading up operations for a global organization, launching new products, and even dealing with extremely sensitive and escalated situations. Now, I loved what I did for a long time. So when I started my business, even though I wanted more flexibility and freedom from the corporate box I was in, I also didn't hate it. I liked the juggle, as hard as it was sometimes, of building my business and achieving those goals while I had the stability and health insurance at work. But as you also likely know, in 2021, just about a year ago now, I knew it was time to step away from the corporate world and fully step into the entrepreneurial one for a number of reasons, many of which I will share with you in this book and in today's episode. So today I'm going to give you a sneak peek at chapter 1 of my newest book, Biz MOMagement, the working mom's guide to go from employee to entrepreneur. The book is currently being formatted and the cover is being designed, so it's not quite ready for your eyes to see yet. But since this has been such a passion project I've been working on, as with any book I've written, I am just so excited to give you this little preview today as I close out the second season of the podcast and take a little breather from releasing new episodes. Now, while I take that breather, if you're new around here, I highly encourage you to binge listen to the other 59 amazing episodes we've got. There are some incredible topics and guests, and I know you will find immense value there. I also would love to keep in touch with you through my weekly newsletter, which will continue to go out every Wednesday. If you're not on that list, you can easily subscribe by heading over to the Mama Work It website at www.mamaworkit.com. Okay, so without further ado, here's chapter 1 from the Biz MOMagement book entitled Never Lose Sight of Your Why. Here we go. Chapter 1, Never Lose Sight of Your Why. When I first started Mama Work It, it wasn't because I was a sleep-deprived, insane lunatic. Although, if you are and you decide to start a business, good for you. It was because of my why. You've probably heard a lot of people talk about this concept of knowing your why anytime you make big shifts in your life. And guess what? I'm about to be one of those people. Here's why. Because it's not a coincidence that any time I ever lost sight of my why was also a time I wanted to give up. Your why is necessary even more than you think it is necessary. It is the cement foundation you build your powerhouse on. If it's not level, the house will crack. If it's not solid, the house will sink. If it's not thought about in depth and planned out well, who knows what the hell could go wrong? Most moms who decide to become entrepreneurs have the same core why: their kids. This is not uncommon and a totally legit and lovely why. But guess what? While your kids may always be your most important why, they don't need to be your only one. Also, you don't want to resent your kids if you're working your booty off for them and they could care less. Hello, three-nager, teenager, and probably some points in between of careless kid behavior. There are other whys out there you are allowed to include in your why vault. I'll give you a quick and dirty list here of some of the whys I often hear when working with clients. Maybe they will spark something in you to dig a little deeper and realize you have more than one why inside you, especially on days when your kids are driving you insane and that why just doesn't feel as strong as you need it to be. If one resonates with you, you'll immediately feel a pull when you read about it here, meaning you'll catch yourself smiling or nodding or thinking, yes, this is me. If it doesn't, you'll probably feel bored and want to skip to the next why. That's okay. Not every why was meant to be yours. Nevertheless, here are some whys you may want to explore. Your freedom. Your freedom is one of the most important things in your life. Think about it. If you lived someplace where you weren't allowed to leave your home without your husband, or you couldn't speak your opinion openly, or your phone and internet browsing history was monitored 24/7, it would feel stifling. It would be awful. Most times, when you work for an organization that isn't your own, you give up a bit of your freedom. This obviously isn't usually extreme or inhumane like the examples I provided, but it is true to a certain extent. You need to adhere to company policies with regards to schedule, hours worked per week, and paid time off. While I don't want to compare working for someone else to not being free, it's essentially just that. When I was a corporate executive, I lacked freedom of time and location. I would always need to be available at 10 a.m. on Mondays for a standing leadership meeting. I would be expected to be in the office daily or online and accessible Monday through Friday during business hours during the pandemic. This is not freedom to me. You can also attribute freedom to values, like ensuring your work is in line with the company's mission, which may or may not be one you support or feel in alignment with. So instead of creating content that you'd love to uncover, you're stuck creating boring stuff that has the right buzzwords or fits the needs of the target audience or, most importantly, has your manager's approval. This is not freedom to me. Freedom is one of the whys we often take for granted, but may actually be one of the most important ones out there. How does it feel when you read this description of freedom and apply it to your values, to your reason for wanting to be an entrepreneur? If it feels right, if it feels good, freedom may just be a why on your list too. Your ambition. Ambitious women are often seen as bossy, rude, unempathetic, or downright mean. Some think they're money hungry. Some think they can't be good moms because they're always chasing their careers or goals. Some may even believe they're selfish or only out for themselves. But here's the truth. Being ambitious doesn't make you greedy or a bad mom or a mean bee. You can be the world's meanest bee and also lazy AF. There are many ways to be any of those things, but ambition will not lead you there. Chances are you would call yourself ambitious if you're reading this book. Chances also are you're a kick-ass mom who likely volunteers her time and resources to her kids' school and buys thoughtful gifts for her significant other on your anniversary. The two do not correlate, unless you're treating your children terribly and cheating on your spouse in addition to being ambitious. If you recognize this is an unshakable quality you have that cannot be silenced, no matter how much you attempt to do a half-assed job or not dream about bigger things, you will be in a much better place. And if you invite your ambition to join your why party, the vibe will definitely be a lot more fun. Embrace your ambition. You are allowed to be both ambitious and amazing, and ain't nobody's opinion gonna matter. Your legacy. Let's talk about this one for a minute. Legacy seems to be something not many people think about because they associate it with death. And who wants to think about dying? Not me. But hear me out for a minute. Have you ever thought about when you die, what people will say about you? Is it in line with how you want to be remembered? How are you currently being perceived? If pursuing your entrepreneurial passion is linked directly or indirectly to how you want to be remembered once you're gone, legacy should make your list of whys. Just to be clear, this doesn't necessarily mean, let's say, Monica, who decided to quit her job and become an entrepreneur, will have a eulogy that goes something like this. Monica was a successful entrepreneur. I don't think Monica would necessarily want to be remembered exactly for that. But maybe once she became an entrepreneur, she could donate more money to causes she cared about, or be more present with her children, or even be a leader and visionary for her employees in a company she built from the ground up. This is what I mean by legacy. Being an entrepreneur allows you the ability to make decisions that can positively affect the legacy you're leaving behind, whether that be generational wealth, the examples you set when it comes to work-life balance for your family, or the mentorship you provide to those who work alongside you. Your legacy can be greatly impacted by what you do professionally and personally with your time on this earth. Your calling. Your calling is a deep-rooted magnetic force that has the persistence and resilience of a toddler saying, "Mommy," over and over and over again. It can even be that annoying sometimes if you're choosing to ignore it and do, quote, more important things, like compile your company's quarterly sales numbers for your boss. If you're a spiritual person, your calling may show up in dreams, in journaling, in meditation, or even via real-life signs in your everyday life. Your calling often comes through your intuition, your sixth sense. Whether you believe this or don't, you've heard the expression, trust your gut, before. This doesn't mean trust your digestive tract, although that can also be helpful if you're trying to figure out if you're lactose or gluten intolerant. It means trusting that intuitive nudge that keeps reminding you to do the thing you're being called to do. On my own personal journey, I did a lot of work on intuition, energy, and alignment. I learned when you're not aligned, when you're not listening to your intuition, your life feels very hard. Things always seem to be working against you, and the silver lining you are trying so hard to find appears a dull brass. When you trust yourself, when you feel aligned with your calling, things start to flow more naturally, more easily, and with less opposite currents getting in the way. Don't get it twisted. This doesn't mean if you add your calling to your list of whys that you will live a life of rainbows and unicorns all day, every day. But it sure does help shine some light on those dark and rainy days so you can continue frolicking through the entrepreneurial daisies of life. Your schedule. When I was a corporate working mom, I did everything in my power to gain more flexibility in my schedule. In fact, before returning to work after my fourth baby was born, I was able to negotiate a 60% remote schedule to avoid commuting 3 days per week. Ironically enough, a month after I returned, our office and the world shut down, and we all became full-time remote employees due to the COVID-19 global pandemic. I wasn't angry at all about this change. What I realized after a year of working remotely, though, was that while this was absolutely helpful and appreciated, it wasn't everything I wanted in my schedule. I still needed to be available during company policy office hours. I still vigorously checked my email anytime I stepped away from my desk. And I still felt indebted to the organization from a schedule perspective. I had to. I worked for the company, and if I wanted to keep my job, I needed to play by their rules. Doing as much as I could to serve the flexibility I wanted and needed, while still meeting and exceeding the standards of the organization, started to feel misaligned for me. While this had worked just fine in the past, the schedule, and quite frankly, the work I was doing was no longer serving me. When the company and schedule left my why party, it was hard to keep doing what I was doing in a positive and aligned manner. I'm a professional, so I never became a disgruntled employee, but internally, I was in a combative war. And I knew, despite the scariness and unknown ahead, I needed to follow my whys if this was going to end well. Entrepreneurship will absolutely give you the schedule of your dreams if you allow it. While many moms think being an entrepreneur means total freedom, and in many ways it does, you also inherit what some may call the worst and most critical boss you've ever worked for before: yourself. I've had to catch myself in overdrive hustle mode and remind myself this isn't the reason I signed up for this. I've had to remove any obligation of getting something done when I felt strongly in that moment I wanted to do something else. This doesn't mean you avoid discipline. That's important in my book. That's the only way I can literally write this book. But it does mean that you recognize when you're working yourself to the bone, burning the candle at both ends, that you are the only reason this is happening. Your intrinsic reward. This is essentially your pride. How good do you feel when you accomplish something big, something that once felt impossible? It can often feel like you've won the lottery, or you've just come downstairs on Christmas morning and received the best possible present ever, like a new car in your driveway with a big red bow on it, or gorgeous diamond-studded earrings, or anything else you've been dreaming of. The thing about intrinsic rewards, though, is that different from that car that depreciates in value as soon as you drive it off your driveway, or those earrings that potentially lose their dazzle or go out of style as the years go by, your pride and sense of accomplishment never fade. You will feel equally proud at 90 years old that you built your website or created your first course or sold your first product as the day you do any of these things. A strong sense of pride, a big intrinsic reward, is like the gift that keeps on giving. And once you get a taste, you'll be going back for more over and over and over again. Your insert fancy splurge here. This should not be your number one, but damn, does it help to visualize that Gucci purse or Mercedes-Benz or dream vacation. No shame in the fancy splurge game, mama. Your whys should always be front and center stage, but the truth is, it's easy for them to end up in the nosebleeds sometimes. Why? Because if you're an ambitious woman, it's hard to ease the hustle sometimes. And if you're a mom, it's basically ingrained in your blood to always be going full speed, within the speed limit, but full speed nonetheless, with 17 tasks also getting done while you're operating the vehicle. All of them hands-free, of course, because safety first. Since I'm such a doer, and I imagine you may be too, it's sometimes hard to stop for a minute and realize when you're not operating from a place of why. You're just operating. This is not what you want, need, or should be doing. This is what leads to exhaustion. This is what leads to burnout. This is what leads to quitting. Yes, there will be days you want to quit. It's normal. It's also simple to fix feeling this way, and it all comes down to your why. What not following your why feels like. 3 months after I quit my corporate career and started pursuing entrepreneurship full force, I experienced my first day on this new journey where I felt genuinely exhausted. I hadn't felt this level of tired, burnt out, disconnected from everything joyful I loved in a long time. Having felt it before, though, during my corporate days, I recognized the feeling, and it scared me. Was I falling into old patterns? Was I not supposed to be running my own business? Was this going to inevitably become my life again? Stressed, tired, not sleeping, anxious. How did I even get here? A couple months previous, I had been raving about the amazing flexibility and balance I now had as a full-time entrepreneur. Now, I was working myself deep into the grave, doing all the mundane necessary tasks in business and at home, and barely having any energy or desire left for the important spontaneity and rituals with my family, like getting ice cream on a random Thursday and reading together each night. This was not how I wanted my life and business to look. Sure, I was doing what I loved. The hours in the day seemed to whiz past as I was serving clients, being creative, and genuinely loving my work. But I was also putting immense pressure on myself. I made massive weekly to-do lists, and despite my telling my clients to focus on 3 small goals a day, I was expecting triple, quadruple, even quintuple that of myself most days. It was utterly exhausting, and because I wasn't yet seeing huge monetary return, I felt like a complete failure along with it. Basically, I was trying to be super mompreneur, if a superhero with that title existed, and was losing steam. Not exactly what I signed up for. I was producing content like a machine. I can remember thinking to myself, if I was in my corporate job, my life would be a lot less stressful right now. The expectations of completion for projects like the ones I was working on would be months, and I was churning them out in less than a week. The creativity muscles were twitching from exhaustion, begging me for some rest. Yet, when I tried to relax, my mind was a whirlwind of thoughts, ideas, lists of people to follow up with, and guilt of finances not being where they needed to be. I was spiraling out of control. I realized all of this was because I hadn't been making decisions with my why as the reason, with my why as a partner in the negotiation process. I had been coming into the boardroom of whys like a loud, bully dictator, yelling at everyone to sit down and shut up. I didn't want any opinions expressed. I didn't want any concerns voiced. I didn't have empathy for the whys in the room. I was too busy hustling. In real life, to other employees, I would never dream of being such a leader. I was a people-centered boss and led with empathy. I was approachable. I was kind. I was able to keep the bigger vision in place, and I welcomed collaboration. But as an entrepreneur, and especially a solopreneur, I found it easy to start making decisions that left my whys stranded on the curb. I started nonchalantly skipping precious moments because I had set nearly impossible deadlines on myself. I forgot how important it was to have fun and laugh and be spontaneous. I stopped scheduling in carefree activities, and when I did, my mind was never fully present. I lost sight of my whys, and it showed. One night during that period, I had reached a level of exhaustion I couldn't manage anymore. I'm not one to pop pills, but my breath work and meditations and mindfulness work wasn't cutting it. I needed to relax. I needed to sleep. I needed white space to think freely, not about my to-do list. I needed to take a break from creating and building and remember my whys. I'd gone so far, so fast from them that I wasn't even sure how to get back to my starting point. I decided I would take an herbal supplement to relax. It rhymes with Karihana, and it's legal where I live, so back off. The dosage said to take 2 gummies, but because I'm such a prude, I took half of one. The directions read it could take 2 hours to feel the effects. I took the quarter dose at 4:15 p.m. because this is how burnt out I felt that day. And if I could have just locked myself in a dark room at this time and watched bad reality TV until the end of time, I probably would have. It wasn't until close to 6:30 p.m. that I started to feel something that was fairly unfamiliar to me in those days. It was calmness. Because I have a supportive husband who probably wouldn't want to be around a semi-high wife, he told me to go to bed. I went upstairs, did my skincare routine because I'm not 20 anymore, and hopped into bed. Well, first, I put some finishing touches on my latest course and then I got into bed. Thankfully, I was smart enough to not hit publish while high, although the writing was pretty damn good when I reread it the next day. I had a clear head, after all. After chugging 3 glasses of water to soothe my extremely dry mouth, I put my head down on the pillow and let my mind drift. I started having some deep thoughts about my whys. My racing mind tried to plow through the slow-moving field of thoughts in its fancy race car, but I was able to slow it down and put the cruise control on 10 mph. At some point during my deep internal conversation, I fell asleep. I think I slept from 8 p.m. until whenever the half gummy wore off in the middle of the night. I slept so deeply and so well that I forgot what good rest even felt like until that night. I'd love to tell you the next day after my deep, high thoughts regarding my whys that I woke up a new woman. I didn't. But I did wake up with a renewed perspective. I was more aware. I was more empowered. I was happier. Nothing had really changed, yet everything had. The work was still getting done, but I was also ensuring I was deciding what to do, how much to do, and when to do it, all centered around my whys. When you're a doer, it can be hard to stop. It can be hard to include your why in your action plan because your why may not feel like the most productive or the most efficient or the fastest way to get to where you want to go. But trust me when I say, your why is always the most direct route. Your why always offers you shotgun. Your why even packs your favorite snacks and some LaCroix for the road so you're never hungry or thirsty. Your why plays your favorite jam so you're in a good mood for the journey, even if you hit some unexpected traffic. Your why is your power steering that allows your reflexes to quickly swerve out of the way and avoid hitting that jerk driving like an idiot who just came out of nowhere. Your why reminds you that you're safe and exactly where you need to be. The party of life will still be going on when you arrive, and you'll be a lot less stressed and a lot more excited to get there, even if it feels fashionably late. And by the way, don't the coolest guests always arrive fashionably late? At least that's what I tell myself whenever I'm late. Your why is a damn good reason to arrive when you do, perfectly on time in your life's schedule. Take it or leave it. What are your whys? List them out and dissect them a bit. Think back to the last time you felt burnt out. Was your why front and center or hiding backstage? What are 3 ways you can ensure your whys remain present in your daily life to keep you focused, motivated, and committed on hard days? Okay, mamas, so that was chapter 1, Never Lose Sight of Your Why, from my newest book, Biz MOMagement, The Working Mom's Guide to Go from Employee to Entrepreneur. And I hope you liked it. I loved reading that out loud for you. I can't wait to record the rest of the book because there will be an audiobook version of this because I don't know about you, but I listen to most of my books more than I actually flip through and read them. That's just how I roll these days. But I also do love with my favorite ones to also have a hard copy of that. So it'll be available in both of those formats as well as ebook format. And again, if you get on the mailing list, on the Mama Work It weekly newsletter mailing list, you will know as soon as that book is ready to order for pre-sale. So I hope you've enjoyed listening. I thank you so much for being on this journey with me and being alongside me and being a valued mama in the Mama Work It family. I can't wait to get back to podcast recording soon, and keep on working it, mama. In the meantime, I'll see you soon. You've been listening to the Mama Work It podcast. I hope you've enjoyed this episode and would love if you could take a quick minute to leave me a review on whichever platform you're listening from, and maybe even send a note to a fellow mama friend recommending it. Reviews and recs help this podcast grow and reach more like-minded, awesome moms. And if you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click that button so we can stay in touch, girl. By the way, if you haven't checked out the Mama Work It website, please do. There are lots of free resources and great articles there that can help you with the juggle of work life, mom life, wife life, fill in the blank life. So head on over. Thanks again for being part of the tribe. I'll see you soon, but in the meantime, keep on working it, mama.